Wake up, get ready, time to shine, it's your day, yeah. Join team together, making dreams come true.
Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Stephanie Loewenstern. Thank you, Danielle, for having me here and the team at Hire Easy. And I'm so grateful that Steve was able to help and the other speakers were fantastic. You guys clearly know what you're doing. And so I have like a lot to, those are hard acts to follow, but hopefully I can share some inspiration, which brings me to my like presentation. So building off of trust and vulnerability and some of those topics and like the human and HR and recruiting, I wanted to talk today about the long game and building trust relationships and resilience and doing more with less in talent acquisition. So basically the way that we recruit now is everything's changing. So budgets are tighter, teams are leaner, and the old way of hiring is it's not as sustainable. So what does that mean for recruiters? It means that recruiters are no longer going to be like it's not transactional, right? Like we're not going to be like thriving on these quick wins. We're the ones that are going to be successful, whether internal or agency, are the ones that are in it for the long game and the ones who do focus on trust, relationships, and resilience. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do that and why I personally am passionate and believe in this. Just before we dive in, hold on one second. Apologies. I'm still I'm still learning how to play around PowerPoint. So okay, so who am I? So my name is Stephanie. I am the founder of Brightlink Talent. Essentially, I own a recruiting business that focuses on high growth tech companies and startups. We're a two-person shop. However, we have great partnerships with other people in the ecosphere. And I guess like I'll just like be natural. I had some notes, but I'll just, share how it is. So basically, why am I qualified to talk about, resilience, trust, and relationships? So my experience, it goes beyond personal, right? So I started it in 2019, my business. I had no idea what I was doing. I left an agency that I was at and essentially I took a role at a startup, I filled it, and the rest was history. And this was in 2019. In 2020, the pandemic happened. So we had the pandemic happening, and then I ended up I ended up moving after the pandemic, and then I moved, I got married, I had a baby, and became a single mom the first week after I gave birth. So I know a thing or two about being resilient and being in the trenches and like kind of just like pushing through life, right? Because as people leaders, yes, like it's about doing our jobs and putting our heads down and like grinding or whatever it is and being effective in our work, but we're also humans, right? So like we also have a personal life going on. So how do we navigate that? And I'm grateful to say 6 years later, I'm still in business. It's not been easy, but, through those changes in such a short amount of time, I had choices. I could either give up or I'm looking at time. And that's why I keep looking up there. I could either give up or I would be able to trust in myself, build relationships, stay resilient. So that's basically, bring back to here. Okay. So that's basically, I wanted to give context on like why I'm so passionate about it and why I believe in the long game, because I truly don't think that I would be in business if I was focused on transactional recruiting and immediate wins. And I think this goes for my computer is having weird pop-ups. Okay. I think this goes for whether you're internal or any business you're running, or whether you're an agency and you're in a big agency, it's all relationships and it's all like having faith, trusting, and navigating all of that. So, that's why I believe in the long game, and that's why I feel like I'm qualified to give this talk. So I want to go into a little bit about, the long game. So here, what I presented here was kind of, I know there's a lot of internal folks. I can't see the chat. I would love to know like who's job seeking, who's on the internal side, who's on the agency side. But essentially, even internal, we're dealing with hiring managers and things are always changing. Jobs are pulled, budgets pulled, et cetera, et cetera. So it's frustrating, right? So I want to like kind of give some context. So a few years ago, 2020, 2021, I was working with the hiring manager. And of course, they're like, we're not hiring. We're having a freeze. Call us next year. I could have easily have just pushed back. I could have been a little bit more, like a little bit more, what do you call it? I could have been persistent, but like persistent in like not such a great like way, like a little bit, there's a little bit too much. And also I could have just said, okay, great, see you later. What I did is I decided to stay in touch, focus on building that relationship with the hiring managers, or like even now, like I focus on building relationships with candidates and the founders. So they would say like, we're not hiring now, call me in a year, like good luck or whatever, or, it is what it is. So like some of us will move on, and instead of like writing them off, again, I focused on the relationship part. So whether that's like providing insights, commenting on their LinkedIn posts to support them in their goals, or just like nurturing that relationship, that is how like I was able to. So essentially a few years later, actually recently, they brought a very hard role to the table and I was able to fill it, thank God. But I was the first one that they remembered. Thank God. I mean, like, I have a kid and I have a family to provide for, but I'm just saying like, I could have easily have been like, the way I handled it essentially was keeping and maintaining that relationship, making that relationship focused on them. And then when they were ready to hire, they were calling me. So let me slow down. I'm also trying to go fast because I know we're behind time and I want to be mindful of the other speakers. So basically, what I wanted to share as far as like the strategy behind the long game is that it's taught me these things have taught me anything valuable. So short-term thinking kills opportunity. And in recruiting success, yes, we need to hire, teams need to hire, businesses need to hire, but it's not always about making the placement today. It's building that reputation for yourself, whether it's internal, and building those relationships that are going to pay off tomorrow or in years to come, or like in my case, 5-6 years later. So just to give some context there. So I wanted to talk about this little framework that I came up with, the 3 pillars of long-term success. So essentially what keeps you in the game, building that foundation, which is trust, the relationships, the compounding effect, right? Like you can be interviewing a candidate tomorrow. They're not a fit for the team, but they make an impact, or you make an impact on them. You're job searching or whatever it is. A few years later, you need support. Those relationships add up over time, those compounding effects. And then resilience is what's going to keep you in the game. Like, what do you do when life gets hard and you go through a layoff, or your hiring manager yells at you that day because you just like submitted the wrong candidate? What do? You lean on these 3 pillars. Okay. So number 1 would be trust, right? So I call it the 3 C's. And trust is like for me, it's like who are the clients are going to call you first, right? Or hiring managers, they're going to want to work with you rather than outsourcing to recruiter. And then candidates, they will refer people to you, or they are going to want to work with you or talk about vulnerability in the last chat. They're going to feel safe with you. So they're going to open up to you and you're going to get to know them. And you're honestly going to get to know if they're a good fit for your culture organization and if it's like a win-win for both teams. And also like companies will then, if you're managing your own business or, you're on the agency side or whatever, like companies become partners. So trust turns recruiters essentially into strategic hiring partners. And I think like that's just the quickest way is like building trust and making the relationship about the people that you're serving, whether it's hiring manager, founder, or candidate. Okay. Relationships. So as I shared before, they compound over time. It's a recruiting game. So, the strongest recruiters, I believe, invest in people before they need them. I think that hiring managers want to work with recruiters that guide them, not just take orders. And remember that, today's like junior hire could be your future senior leader. If you treat every conversation like a transaction, you are going to lose. If you invest in the people, you are going to win. I want to give you guys more examples. I'll give you a quick one just because this means so much to me as like a single mother and I own a business and we're doing great. I've had a candidate recently make it to the final end of a stage with a client. And I tend to really fall in love with my candidates and build these relationships with them. And unfortunately, the candidate just did not make the cut at the final round. However, we were able to stay in touch. I was able to deliver feedback in a compassionate way and essentially so long story short, what I wanted to say was the candidate did not make it to the final round, and that's pretty common, but he had a good experience with me. I was able to be compassionate, deliver feedback, refer him to other jobs that I wasn't even working on or other recruiters. A few weeks later, one of his friends took a role as a head of sales at an early stage startup. He thought of me first, referred me, and that ended up being one of my bigger accounts in 2024. So my point is like I made it about him. I had no expectations that he was going to refer me business, but like not making it about him and not the placement at that time actually transformed my business year in 2024. So I just want to like reiterate again, like focus on the relationships and not what you're going to get right now. Okay, the next step is resilience. So what separates like good from great? We talked, the theme of the conference is doing more with less. So market shift happens, hiring freeze happens, but great recruiters don't pivot, they panic. Fun fact, when the pandemic hit, I recruited nurses for like a minute. It was a year and a half into business, and all my startup clients were like, Steph, sorry, we love you, but we're not hiring. Or some just didn't love me because I'm not for everybody, but I didn't have jobs to work on. So essentially I went into Facebook and I met someone, and like for a little bit I recruited nurses, because I had to make ends meet. And that's what we do, right? So, and I think someone earlier said on one of the speeches, it was like, if you have a pulse, I'll recruit you, which was really funny. I loved it. But essentially, like we pivot. We don't have to panic. And regarding AI, like we can lean into AI and like not take it as a competition. Momentum beats motivation. So like staying positive and having that momentum, even when that hiring slows down. So for example, leaning into, okay, so resilience is like what separates good recruiting from the great ones. So like when things slow down, like staying, like I know it's like positivity, but like seriously, like go take a course on Chat GPT and figure out like a way that you can implement it to make your business better. You get laid off, like go take this as an opportunity to like learn a new skill, or I don't know what that looks like. All I know is that like if you just keep moving forward, right? Like you keep showing up, like, and it is, and you walk through pain, right? Like when you're going through your personal stuff in life, like you keep seeing the bigger future and you have your why. So whether that's your kid, your parents, or whatever that looks like, or if you just want to make money, like that's fine. But resilience, like you just keep going when things get tough. I want to go back to trust. I didn't include it, but it is really important to who I am. I want to mention that trust and all of this, for me, it's a lot of faith. Like we're believing in the best and trusting and surrendering to something like for greater than yourself or whatever that looks like, and understanding and letting things happen and unfold the way they're supposed to. So like for example, if you're going through a layoff or you're scared at work because budget was cut, and or you have a difficult employee, like I should take this advice, breathe, slow down, but just like trusting and having faith that like everything is for the greater good, and like your life and your work and the trajectory of like how you're showing up in your career is going to unfold and how it's supposed to. Okay. So basically we're wrapping up here. So again, like just to reiterate, the benefits is that, trust reduces friction. You'll get faster deals. You'll build stronger relationships long term. The compounding effect over time is like, and then eventually you'll get more inbound requests. So more candidates are going to reach out to you more, you're going to get more referrals. You're laid off at your job. So your friend at XYZ company is going to refer you. And you might have met them 5 years ago at a coffee shop. But again, like it's compounding. And then resilience is going to keep you in the long game. So my business was not built overnight. It is a miracle, or I could say it's a miracle, right? Like 6 years later, I thrived through, well, I wouldn't say thrive, right? Like we learned, like it's been building that muscle. Someone else mentioned before, like build that muscle with trust, I believe. Build that muscle with resilience. Keep showing up. Not every day is going to be easy, whether it's personal or professional, but if you keep showing up and going, it will work out. So I'm clearly very passionate. I do believe that we take our pains, and again, I know that this is a human. These are human people. We're all humans, and we're in the work. We're all like we're in people functions, right? So we're all human, and I also know that there are some people going through layoffs, and it's been very, very painful. So I just want to say that like take it a day at a time. And really just have like the long game in mind, have service in mind, have others in mind, and the rest will follow. So I can't see the chat, but I usually like to be interactive. I would love to know in the chat, what is one step you can take today towards playing the long game? So that could look like calling a friend that you met a few months ago at a networking event, reaching out to a hiring manager, studying something. I don't know what that looks like. I could probably create another 30-minute presentation on each pillar. I'm not going to, Danielle. I know I'm wrapping up. So again, I wanted to go into, and then also to take a step further, like what is one pillar you can focus on, right? So maybe this week you focus on building your muscle for resilience or those relationships and trust. Where can you lean in today? So with that said, I do want to say my LinkedIn is there. I'll drop it in the chat. Thank you so much. If you want to reach out for any support, you're going through a layoff, you want to start a business, or you're just dealing with some stuff at work and you need to talk to someone, like call me. Happy to talk. I'm in it for you. And that's the end. Thank you.
Oh, oh.